for the next session, that is the skills disruption, rethinking talent models and learning in the digital age. For this, I would like to introduce Mr. Vikas Maheshwary, Assistant Vice President Human Resources, Syngene International. Vikas is the global HR transformation leader at Biocon Biologics, bringing over 25 years of experience in human capital management across diverse sectors, including telecom, retail, and biotechnology. He has led complex organizational changes, initiatives, redefined employee value propositions, and implemented enterprise performance management system. Can we have a huge round of applause for Mr. Vikas Maheshwary?
All right, let's do this. We've spoken a lot about a lot of things since morning. I was just discussing with Amit and some of my other colleagues, friends, that, does it really make sense to talk about so many things, or shall we just stick to something very basic, very simple, but get into the depth of it, and then take something back which we can use, something that you don't normally find on Google, and GPT does give you most of the things. If not GPT 4.5, then O1 definitely does. Okay, here's the thing. We're going to talk about building a skills-based organization. Something I've been doing for a while, so it's not just something that I come prepared from a napkin.ai or one of those fancy AI tools. This is something that we've worked on. And I think the last part of this presentation will also talk about the points of failures, that where is it that you may fail if you're targeting to build a skills-based organization. For the next few minutes, my suggestion and request is that take your L&D hats away, put them somewhere in the corner, think like an HR generalist, even better like an HR strategist, because I think a lot of this is in those realms. And I think you, Rashid, would like what I'm going to talk about, because it's something very near to you. So how many of you have actually started the journey on building a skills-based organization in your companies? Roy, you don't count. All right, and how do you get these skills? So we all talk about skills as a currency, and skills is the new oil, and all those fancy things. But how do you get these skills in your organization? How do you identify the skills? Anybody? Say that again. You do a job evaluation. You do it, but that's to identify the gaps in the skills. I'm saying, how do you identify that if I was an HR BP or an L&D consultant, then these are the skills that I need? How do you identify that? Yeah. Okay, how do you do competency mapping? You do a job architecture using Hayes or RVI or whatever, but where do you get the skills from? Who do you ask? What skills are? Let's go real. You go to the business? Okay. Anybody else? ChatGPT, inferences. Anybody else? Managers, which is business. Wrong. And I'm telling you, you will fail. Because it's a very inward-looking exercise. Did you hear the gentleman say that, the shelf life of a skill, he said the skills are changing. I'm saying the shelf life of a skill is about 18 months. Try this, and I've tried this thrice in my career. You go and ask the business, because it's part of the job evaluation, You go and ask the business that what skills do you think, your supply chain manager should have? And they would give you a set of skills which are very generic in nature, and you love them because you understand them, right? But the minute you do an actual scraping through the right kind of a tool, you come up with skills which you've never heard of. I'll give you an example without naming the name of the company, but I was working there, and we had we thought that we knew the skills. We knew what people wanted. We had job descriptions. We had business managers, etc., who were like the best. They have been in the organization forever. Okay, so they know it. So we believe that. But the minute I used the tool, and that was not GPT, but the minute I used the tool, I was able to enrich the skill inventory, which was otherwise 35 skills, some of them were behavioral, to about 1,100 skills. 1,100 skills. Now the next question you might want to know is, how big is the organization? 350 UJRs, unique job roles. In 350 unique job roles, you suddenly had an inventory of 1,100 skills, and everybody was looking at those, oh yeah, this I know, but I didn't say it. The same manager. Because they committed a lot of that to a random access memory. It's not there on the paper. So the first point of failure to my mind is typically, how do you get your skills right? The start point is not a tool. The start point is not all those fancy things. The start point is, let's get our basic job architecture, for sure. But along with that, the skills have to be scraped. Now, how does the scraping of the skill happen? Has anybody thought through this? You don't use GPT. GPT gives you some stuff. The O1 model gives you some amazing and very interesting literature, but doesn't give you the context of your organization. So what you do is you typically put up a comparator basket. You say, my HRBP, who's got 7 years of experience in my organization, I typically hire people who've done MBA in HR. I want to compare and benchmark this person against an Amazon or an IBM or a Google or somebody, and based out of so-and-so country. And you know what? The tech actually gets you the skills from all the skill inventory, skill cloud, skill libraries, plus a lot of other, if it's a paid API, then LinkedIn and the others. So you get a very rich skill inventory. Now you go ahead and map it, saying that, does it make sense for me? Validation. And that's where you get into your manager conversations. I've always said that, getting the skills is one part of the leg. It's one part of the journey. The second big part of the journey, and these are just fundamentals that I'm just going to get out of the way, and then we can get into something very interesting. Where do you wire the skills? Do you map the skills to roles, people, or something else? Anybody? Roles. How many? Anybody? Roles. Performance management, okay, yeah. Nature of work. Now you're getting there. See, again, maybe it's time for us to think this a little differently. Stop wiring skills to roles. Okay, they may not give you the true ROI that you have been looking at, but just create a mental map. Stay with me on this for a minute. Let's suppose you had a role of a supply chain manager. What does your JD have for the supply chain manager? The tasks, as you said. The work that the person does. Now, to do a work, what do you typically need? To perform a task, what do you typically need? Competency, capability, skills, tomato to me, but yes, right? So you need skills to perform that. And if you perform that, what do you get at the end of the day? If you perform a certain task, what do you get? It's a very simple question. Impact. Okay? Ma'am there said performance. I'm wondering, and I keep thinking about this, and a lot of people have started actually doing it in the organizations. I'll show you some. Can we now stop mapping skills to roles and start mapping skills to our KPIs? Just think about it. Would it then create an impact? Now, we spoke about ROI, right? If you believe that performance is a skill or a will issue, either a skill or a will, and you assume that you have the will, then possibly what you don't have or maybe need development on is skill, right? If your KPIs are not performing, let's suppose I have a KPI of an EBIT or a sales performance or something or the other, or an OTIF, and if it is not delivering the results for me, maybe it's my skill issue, assuming will is intact. A lot of times we make a mistake. We focus so much on learning medaldo, development medaldo, classroom medaldo, but problem is somewhere very different. So maybe it's time for us to start thinking that is it time for us to start mapping KPIs to skills? Yes. Absolutely. You're absolutely right. But multiple people own up a KPI or a KRA. Isn't that true? Unless and until you have intent statements in your KPIs, which are basically, I've heard, and I've actually seen an organization have this for a very senior leader as a KPI. I will move the needle on my performance this year. That's my KPI. Right? If you have those kind of KPIs, none of this is going to work. Now go a step further. Visualize a KPI to be a tree. Let's suppose your organization has key objectives. You all have key objectives. Every year you redefine, right? Digital transformation. Oh, supply chain. We have a big problem, so operational excellence. So you have a key objective for the organization. Now, if the key objective of the organization, let's say, is digital transformation for the year 2025, double-click that KPI, what do you get? Maybe you get adoption. Maybe you get utility. Maybe you get spends on IT. Double-click that, what do you get? Maybe you get some other KPIs. Think, visualize like a KPI tree. Now, each of these KPIs are held by an individual, right? But that individual is doing what? They're performing certain tasks to be able to achieve that KPI, right or wrong? You will hear a lot about this, and I'm leaving you with a hashtag for the year. We've had hashtags every year. We love in HR, the hashtag business. So the hashtag for 2025 is going to be fractionalizing. Fractions? So you hear a lot about partial fractionalization, where they're saying, can we fractionalize a role into tasks and make it more fluid? So next time I'm giving you a very simple example. Let's suppose the task is to make excellent PPTs like Suresh just showed us, right? And the skill that you need is PPT making skills. And you know what? I have a project where I have to go and present, somewhere in some forum, and I don't know how to make PPTs. Now, can I look around in my own ecosystem and find who are the best at making PPTs, give them some money for it, give them like a gig, and that's a side job for them, and out goes moonlighting. Right? By the way, if anybody's known of Unilever, Unilever did this about 5-6 years back. They called it You Work. So your job is fractionalized into tasks. And every time for a certain KPI, when I have to create a team, today, how do you create KPI-based teams? I mean, you look at, okay, I'm the head of HR, so I should have a head L&D. In L&D, I should have instructional designers. You're basically thinking roles. And I know of an organization when they had a certain objective called that they had to go IPO. You know IPO? And for that, you have to do a lot of prep work. Agreed? So for this prep work, there were some usual suspects. Oh, I'm going to pick up a finance head, a legal head, and so and so. But I went and told the CHRO, just hang on for a minute. Don't announce your IPO squad just like that. Look at the key objectives that you want to achieve through an IPO. He said timely closure of an audit, timely this, timely that. And we should be able to do so and so, kind of paperwork. I said, now let's look around that for these, what are the skills required? We did that. And then when we went out and saw that who are the people who are the skill champions on those, the usual suspects did not feature. Because for documentation, maybe there was somebody else who was better. All right? So when you have these kind of, reckonings, suddenly your team composition becomes very different. So you basically plan your team composition basis KPIs. Not just basis, roles. That's the concept of, breaking that whole KPI to, role to skill mapping. I'm going to just keep going through these slides because there's some, and IBM features a lot, because you guys have been pioneer in some of the work around skills. Yeah. All right, so we've all known, so these are some use cases, we've all known that the world has moved to skill-based hiring, but I guess we are doing it wrong because, again, when it comes to skills, we look at, sorry to use these words, but 30,000 feet in the air, fluffy skills. I am saying we have to go macro. You spoke about the A to B to C, and then you said that, there are micro skills that you need. I think we have to create an ecosystem where we are assessing people on those micro skills, not just generic skills. All right? And for that, a skill assessment framework is extremely important. And we spoke about skill assessments. You did. But again, go back to the KPI to skills mapping. Isn't the best way to measure skill actually a performance on the KPI? Just think about it. Why? I mean, I have very strongly believed that when an employee joins an organization, they sign an offer letter. If you actually take the fluff and the noise out of the offer letter, there is an agreement which is being made. And that agreement is very simple. The employee commits to perform for your organization, basically delivers on KPIs, the KPIs that you would give them, or OKRs, or whatever. And you as an organization commit that you will reward the person and pay this person appropriately. Right? At the heart and soul of that offer letter, okay, don't hate me, okay? I mean, I'm just saying that, I'm just simplifying this, okay? I mean, of course, you commit for many other things, but this is the heart and soul of it. It's a transaction. Of course, you also commit to things like, I will help you develop for your next role. You do that. That I will help you grow, which is fine. But how do you help the person grow? How? You've all dealt with challenges of succession. Where is Amit? Yeah? We've all dealt with challenges of succession. How do you do your succession planning? Put your hand on your heart, okay? There's a lot of intuition, a lot of gut, a lot of manager's bias. Oh, this critical role, at times we get confused, critical role or critical person? And somebody has to come and say, no, critical role. Okay, and depending on the context of an organization, it could be a mix of both. So you say, okay, for this particular role, somebody gets up and decides, you know what, I have done a talent card. Fancy words, okay, success profile, talent card. Basically, it has what? It has a very fancy 9-box illustration. 9, 16, 8, depending on where your, mood or flavor of the day is. And then you say, I have this talent card, which basically shows the potential of the person. Now, what does potential really mean? I have always asked this question to a lot of my HR colleagues, and I'm the most hated man on my floor when I'm in this avatar. Okay, I've asked them, what is potential? And they say potential to grow. I said, grow means what? Grow into what? So to my mind, I think the potential is very simple. The potential is for me to be able to perform to my aspired role. Or it could be my next possible move, vertical, lattice, growth, whatever, right? Now, how do you measure that? Because you see, I haven't started working in that role. So you're identifying potential, right? But how do you identify that? Somebody comes and says, I think this person has the potential, right or wrong? Baki just create data to kind of support that judgment, but basically it's one person saying that, hai na? Can we now break this down and say my skill score? Let's suppose my current role has 10 skills. My aspired role that I chose is the CEO's, and that has another 15 skills. And I have spent about a year, year and a half, maybe 2 years to prepare for that role through multiple learning and development initiatives which are not restricted to e-learning and classroom training. They could be staging. They could be actual performance of a certain skill, okay? So all of that put together, I have prepared myself. I got myself assessed. I'm 80% ready for my aspired role. Now you're a little more confident of taking that decision. Now the potential makes more sense, right? You're saying something. Absolutely. AC, DC, we all love these terms, but all I'm trying to say is that whatever you create, okay, the intent is not just to do those psychometric analysis, because those are important for behaviorals, but you know, you have to go a little deeper. As I said, your performance is an output of your KPIs. As simple as that. So focus on the KPI even before you get to the skills. All right? Okay. So development careers, a lot of action. I just spoke about a few. There's a lot of work that is happening on development careers, which is different from how we have understood of development and career movements. I gave you an example. Then performance management. And I have known of organizations, I've worked with some, where performance and skills is together. All right? Now you might, since we are on that subject and we have a couple of minutes, performance conversations, when you do calibrations, again, brutally honest, put your hand to your heart and say, in calibrations, what happens? Does performance conversation really happen? Or is it more about, you know, he picked up an extra project, or she has a great intent, she is a great person, and we end up in the realms of behaviors, which is fine. But guys, the objective the performance calibration had was on my goal sheet, right? And that is where we make a mistake, another point of failure. And there is a new upcoming subject on rewards and recognition, where more and more companies have started thinking that is it time for us to recreate our compensation structures basis skills? Because when I get the skill inventory, it is incomplete if I'm not getting the tags of saying emerging, maintaining, declining. Data analyst as a skill, how many of you have heard? Data analyst? Okay, data analysis? Yeah? Okay. You think it's an emerging skill? It's a declining skill now. It's a declining skill now. And you're right, I would have also believed the same. You can Google it. Data analysis is a declining skill. Visual, or let's say storyboarding or visual representations of data, all of these are declining skills. Because there is tech which has replaced that. And I am a very strong believer that we keep saying augmentation. AI is augmentative. I am sorry. I would take this, okay, they're recording me, but I think we have to be a little careful with this. It's not augmentative. There's a replacement happening of tasks. There are tasks that you were very happy doing which are getting replaced by some of the tech that we have around, right? Similarly, workforce planning, the CHROs do a whole lot of manpower planning. They say 30% attrition last year, 30% we have to hire. There's a new business coming, another 10%. All of this is gut and intuition coming out. But nobody's looking at, hey, listen, for this new business that I've acquired or for this new work that I want to do, which are the key objectives? For those key objectives, what are the KPIs? For those KPIs, which are the skills needed? Now, do I have those skills internally? If I have, great. If I don't have, do I need to borrow? Do I need to buy? Or can I build? If it's time constrained, then you don't have time to build. You have to borrow or buy. But if you have time, then you build. That is how workforce planning is happening these days. And yeah, please go ahead, Nusrat.
AI AI gives you the insights. I mean, I know this might be a disagreement and we can always debate about this. Data analysis is not going to be a declining skill because though you have AI that will give you the insights, you need a human mind to be able to understand and bring out further insights.
Yeah, yeah.
And right now, ChatGPT confirmed that unless we are calling it
4.5.
out. Yeah. But I don't think, I don't think we can call out, this could be a debatable
Yeah, yeah,
topic.
yeah.
All I'm saying is
We
it
will
can't be
keep
an
meeting.
absolute fact that it's declining skill.
We will keep meeting. WEF to 2025? Yeah? We will keep meeting. Okay? And we will revisit this. Please. Please. Yeah. 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 Yes.
What AI is doing is it's augmenting the ability for us to take better decisions.
Absolutely.
So it's not replacing human decision making. So in a way, it's
Absolutely.
supporting what the other lady said.
Yeah,
you know.
that's
So-
the reason I didn't want to make
So
these
don't
comments.
dismiss it.
No, I didn't want to make these comments, but just wait and watch is all that I'm trying to say. Because GPT 4.5 was able to do exactly what you said. But when you look at O1, there is actual thinking happening in that model. And nowhere, don't get me wrong that your human decisions are getting replaced. But there are certain tasks that you perform. And those tasks, which used to be monotonous, repeatable, which were like 30% of your JD or maybe more, they are getting replaced. So suddenly 30% of my day-to-day is getting replaced by AI. If that is happening, then maybe it's time for me to have two people come together to do one role or one person doing two people's role. Those kind of decisions. And that's where the replacement side of it comes. You are right. AI supports me. It augments. But there are tasks that it is replacing. Now, as and when the AI models keep getting smarter, I wonder what other tasks will it replace. Okay, and if you have time, I'll show you on a laptop. I will actually run a query, which you would think would take forever and a lot of human intelligence. But the GPT, not the GPT, but the O1 actually throws out. O1 is the next version of 4.4. It's very limited in availability and fairly expensive.
Here.
Yeah.
So the evolution of GPT, O1, R1, whatever you say, it really give you the expression of the thinking model, where how do they think, and you can actually visualize this thinking. Another two important terminology you used, and I was really afraid of using that gut feeling and the intuition. Irrespective of any, the part in the life cycle of an employee, maybe the hiring, recruitment, promotion, increment, reward recognition. How many times this biasness takes away a person who is really skilled and the person who is really absolutely fantabulous in terms of his skills, his ability to the behavior and the communication and his gelling ability, human, the factor with
You're
that.
absolutely right.
So another the question here. So how do we really actually understand between these two and do the justice with someone who really need to be rewarded in an organization?
Yeah. You can't solve for every. There's none of this is a magic wand. Okay, my time's up, so basically I'm getting the bells. I've opened up a Pandora's box right at the end. But happy to answer that question. But just one thing I'll leave you as a food for thought, and Roy is a victim to that question. In one of the panels, we were discussing a whole lot of things, and I asked him that, how do you solve for office politics? Everything is fine, performance, this, that. And he said, just bring in AI. Yeah, because most of the conflicts are interpersonal in nature, right? So if you bring in AI, there will be absolutely no conflict. Okay, your question is not that. I just wanted to close on a high. Yeah. Probably.
Just 1 minute. I just
Yeah.
wanted to,
Sure.
because this is an important thing. See, we are right now witnessing a huge AI hype cycle. Okay, that's what Gartner also says. 10 years back, I was with Hewlett Packard. I program manage RPA. RPA, at that time, it was mentioned that all the tasks will get automated. But did that happen? No, it didn't. So we are witnessing a huge AI is hallucinating. It's not at the moment where it is. Let's go with the flow. We should be prepared. But at the same time, I would agree it's augmentation. I would, because we've seen a lot of conferences and meeting with all the AI researchers. It's definitely not going to be replacement for sure. And nobody trusts. You've seen in San Francisco what's happening to the driverless cars. It's all over the place.
Yeah, contrarian view, but yeah, this is where we are. I think we'll just know as we know. So thank you so much. My time's been up for a while, and pleasure interacting with you all. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Mr. Vikas.